Hello, and welcome to Short Stories, a production of the Language Center at the National Taichung University of Science and Technology. Today's story is a retelling of a famous Russian opera called The Queen of Spades, which premiered in St. Petersburg, Russia in 1890. Written and composed by the Tchaikovsky brothers, The Queen of Spades is an opera in 3 acts, and it is loosely based on a book by Alexander Pushkin. The story takes place in Russia during the reign of Catherine the Great. The card game that the characters play is called Pharaoh, which is no longer popular. In fact, I had never heard of it before I researched this opera. You don't need to know the rules to understand the story. You just need to know that in order to win, you have to bet on the right card. And that is the lesson that the main character learns. This story has been modified from its original version. It has been formatted to fit this screen. Vocabulary: austere. Austere. The president addressed Congress with an austere expression on his face. Bet. Bet. He lost a lot of money betting on horse races. Deal me in. Deal me in. Deal me in. I want to join your poker game. Gambling. Gambling. Gambling is legal in Las Vegas. Goosebumps. Goosebumps. That scary movie gave me goosebumps. Obsessed. Obsessed. Herman was so obsessed with card games that he spent every day at the casino. Ruminate. Ruminate. He ruminated on his past mistakes. Suitor. Suitor. The princess was approached by several handsome suitors. The story. One day in St. Petersburg's gorgeous summer garden, 3 soldiers were taking a leisurely stroll. "I missed the card game last Friday, Tsurin. How did it go?" asked Chekalinsky. "Terrible," said Tsurin. "I have no luck with cards. At least Tomsky made some money." Chekalinsky turned toward Tomsky and asked, "Oh, really? How much did you win?" Tomsky replied, "Only 45 rubles." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of another soldier. "Herman!" shouted Tsurin excitedly. "It's good to see you." But Herman did not reciprocate his friend's enthusiasm. "What's wrong, Hermy? Did you lose some money at the card game?" asked Chekalinsky. Before Herman could answer, Tomsky said he'd have to make a bet before he could lose. Herman was a strange fellow. He was obsessed with card games, but he never made a bet. This often led to teasing from his friends. "It's not cards that got me down," Herman finally said. "It's a woman." The 3 soldiers became very interested and asked Herman to explain. "I saw the most beautiful woman in the park the other day. She had red hair, big blue eyes, and a delightful smile." Tomsky asked if he had talked to her. "No," answered Herman. "I couldn't get close to her. She was with Countess Sophia." The 3 men gasped. "Do you mean the Queen of Spades?" asked Chekalinsky. Herman nodded. Tomsky burst out laughing. "Are you afraid of a little old lady, Hermy?" Countess Sophia was one of the wealthiest and therefore most influential members of St. Petersburg's high society. Only Empress Catherine was wealthier. Her hair, now gray, was once as black as a raven's wing. Her eyes were like onyx, and her face was calm and austere. The local rumor was that she had gained her wealth through gambling. It was believed that she possessed a secret strategy that she had learned from her first lover, a famous Frenchman named Count Saint Germain. The only other person she had told about the secret was her late husband. Herman ignored his friend's comment and continued his exposition. The reason I'm so melancholy is that I realized who the woman is. She's Countess Sophia's granddaughter, Liza, and I'm afraid that I'm too poor to even talk to her. If I were you, said Surin, I'd forget about the girl and talk to the Queen of Spades. Ask her what her secret to winning is. Tomsky scoffed and said she'd never tell. Old Saint Germain warned her that the secret is cursed. Beware the third suitor, he told her. The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of yet another military officer, Prince Yelensky. I've come to tell you some good news, he announced grandly. I'm getting married. All four of the soldiers congratulated him and patted him on the back. Who's the lucky girl? Asked Surin. None other than Liza, the granddaughter of the Queen of Spades herself, said Prince Yelensky proudly. Herman's heart sank down into his stomach when he heard this news. After some more backslapping and pleasant expressions of joy, the party of soldiers broke up and went their separate ways, leaving Herman alone in the park. He sat down on a bench and hung his head between his knees. How will I ever win the heart of Liza now? He wondered. My only chance is if I become wealthier than Prince Yelensky. Then an idea popped into his brain. He lifted up his head and looked up into the cloudy sky and declared that he would learn the secret of the Queen of Spades. Later that evening, Liza was at home with her friend Polina. The two were singing merrily as Liza played the piano. After the song was over, the two young women laughed and sat on the sofa to drink some tea. You must be really excited about marrying Prince Yelensky, commented Polina. He's rich and handsome, the best combination for a man. Liza smiled politely and said, I guess so. Polina was curious and asked for further explanation. Liza eventually admitted that she didn't really love Prince Yelensky, and that she was only marrying him because that was what her grandmother wanted. I don't care if my husband is rich, she declared. What matters is a man's heart. That night, as Liza was settling down for sleep, she heard a tapping at her bedroom window. She opened it and was shocked to discover a young man. Didn't I see you in the park the other day? She asked. The man nodded his head and introduced himself. My name is Herman, and I love you beyond measure, he declared. Liza blushed and didn't know what to say. Herman got down on his knees and started to beg. Please don't marry Prince Yelensky. I know that guy. He's no good for you. I know I'm poor now, but I have a plan to get rich, and when I do, I will formally ask for your hand in marriage. Liza smiled, and tears of joy started to form in her eyes. Now this is a man with a good heart, she thought. She hugged Herman and agreed to delay the wedding and to help him in his quest to get enough money to marry her. That Friday, the Imperial Palace hosted a grand ball. All of St. Petersburg's high society was there, including Herman and his friends. Between dances, the four soldiers chatted. I finally talked to Liza, Herman announced proudly. Tomsky slapped his shoulder and said, That a boy, Hermy. You've finally gone and made a bet. How'd it go? Herman explained that Liza was going to help him learn the secret of the Queen of Spades. Maybe you're the third suitor, warned Surin. Suddenly, a waiter arrived and handed Herman a note. He read it and was excited to see Liza's signature. She wants to meet me alone on the balcony later, he said excitedly. Herman met Liza under the pale light of a clear moon. They spoke sweetly to each other in gentle whispers. "Take this," said Liza, handing him a golden key. "It'll open the door to my grandmother's study. Maybe you can find a clue to her secret there." Herman gave Liza a soft kiss and left the party. Liza had also advised Herman to wait until tomorrow night to search her grandmother's study, but Herman could not wait. "I've got to find that secret now," he said to himself. He snuck into Countess Sophia's mansion through a window and stealthily made his way to the study. The door opened with a loud creak, which gave Herman goosebumps. He began his search with the bookshelves, thinking that perhaps the old woman had written the secret in a journal. Finding nothing, he then turned his attention to the desk, which sat under a large portrait of Countess Sophia in her youth. Herman paused to admire the painting, which was titled "The Muscovite Venus." He began to ruminate about the fabled curse. "They say that the third suitor will cause your death," muttered Herman to the painting. "I hope, for your sake, that they are wrong." Suddenly, Herman heard the door open behind him. He spun around and looked in terror at the surprised face of the Queen of Spades. There was a brief moment where they were both too stunned to speak, but Herman acted first by rushing forward to place his hand over the old woman's mouth. "If you scream, I'll kill you," bluffed Herman. The Queen of Spades looked at him with eyes wide with fear. "Now tell me the secret to winning at cards," demanded Herman. The old woman made no noise other than the sound of her labored breathing. Her heart was racing, and the blood began to drain from her face. Herman kept up his interrogation, but the old woman only responded by collapsing onto the floor. "My chest," she gasped. "It hurts." Clutching at her own heart, the Queen of Spades gave up the ghost, leaving her secret a permanent mystery. "Oh no!" exclaimed Herman as he pulled on his hair. Just then, Liza entered the room. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "I told you to come tomorrow." That's when Liza noticed her grandmother lying on the floor. She rushed forward and placed her hand on the old woman's neck. "What did you do to her?" she demanded. Herman could only shrug and suggested that she had died of fright. "Get out!" yelled Liza, tears streaming from her eyes. Herman tried to help lift up the old woman, but Liza smacked his hand away and repeated her command for him to leave. Herman ran out of the room and leaped out of the window and disappeared into the night. A week later, Herman sat on his bunk in the army barracks, staring out of the window at the setting sun. He was devastated by the events of the previous week and constantly ruminated on the love and the fortune that he had lost. Tomsky interrupted his brooding to hand him a letter. "You forgot to pick up your mail again," said Tomsky. Herman lazily accepted the letter and asked to be left alone. Tomsky tried to cheer up his friend. "Love is like a game of cards, Hermy," he said. "Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. All you can do is play the hand that you're dealt." Herman sighed and replied, "I am worn out by grief." Tomsky left the room, shaking his head. Herman sat quietly watching the sun set before opening the letter. In the dim light of a candle, he saw Liza's signature. His heart leaped with joy. "She wants to meet me tonight by the river. Maybe she wants to forgive me," he thought. He jumped off his bunk to put on his shoes, but he was stopped by the sudden and unexpected appearance of the Queen of Spades. "Eep!" he shrieked. "Aren't you dead?" The Queen of Spades drifted closer to him and replied, "Yes, but since you are the third suitor, I am obliged to tell you the secret to winning at cards." Herman couldn't believe his luck. Not only has Liza decided to forgive me, but I'm also about to learn the secret to fabulous wealth, he said to himself excitedly. Herman calmed himself and said, I'm ready to receive your wisdom, O Queen of Spades. The spirit drifted closer and said, You must remember these 3 cards: 3 of hearts, 7 of clubs, and the ace of diamonds. Herman repeated the cards so that he would not forget. Now go, said the ghost. Your destiny awaits. Herman watched as the ghostly old woman faded into the moonlight. I can't wait to tell Liza about this, he exclaimed as he ran out the door. Liza stood pensively on the riverbank, considering her decision to meet with Herman. Am I making a mistake? She asked herself. Soon Herman arrived, breathless from excitement. I'm so happy to see you, he declared. Oh, Hermie, replied Liza, I thought about what happened and I realized that it wasn't your fault. I just want to say, but Liza was cut off by Herman, who was desperate to tell her about the secret he had learned from the Queen of Spades. I got it, he shouted. I got the secret. Your grandmother's ghost told me, herself. Liza was confused, but Herman was too excited to properly explain himself. The boys from my barracks are playing cards right now. They play every Friday night. If I hurry, I can join them and win a bunch of money. Liza held his hand and tried to convince him to stay with her. I don't care about the money, Hermie, she told him. But Herman, by this point, was crazy with gambling fever. I'll be right back, he yelled as he ran down the street toward the officers' club. Liza was heartbroken and fell to her knees and sobbed. Tomsky, Tsurin, Chekalinsky, and Prince Yeletsky were in the officers' club playing cards when Herman burst through the door. Deal me in, he demanded. What's gotten into you? Asked Chekalinsky. Tonight I will meet my destiny, declared Herman as he pulled up a chair. Prince Yeletsky handed him a card. Let's hope your luck is better than mine, he muttered. I just got dumped today. Herman paid no attention to this comment and eagerly placed his first bet. I'll bet on the 3 of hearts, he said as he slammed 40,000 rubles onto the table. Prince Yeletsky took a card from the top of the deck and turned it over. Congratulations, you won, said the prince. Herman asked for another round and said, I'll bet the next one is the 7 of clubs. Prince Yeletsky looked at him curiously and flipped over the next card. You won again. How did you do that? Herman demanded another round, this time betting everything that he had. The last one is the ace of diamonds, shouted Herman, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Prince Yeletsky slowly turned over the final card. The whole room was silent as they all stared at the Queen of Spades. Herman couldn't believe his eyes. What? He yelled as he leaped from his chair. He stared at the card in stunned silence, and as he did so, he could hear Countess Sophia's voice. It seemed like the card itself was laughing at him. No, 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 it can't be, shouted Herman as he ran around the room. His friends were deeply concerned and tried to calm him down, but he kept pacing back and forth, beating his own head in a desperate attempt to get the old woman's mocking laugh out of his ears. Finally, Herman stopped moving and started to beg for Prince Yeletsky's forgiveness. It's all my fault, he declared. I bet on the wrong card, and now I've lost everything. Pushing his friends aside, Herman ran out the door and toward the bridge, where he leaped to his death. The questions. Number 1. Why does Herman think that he can't marry Liza? A. He is too rich. B. He is too ugly. C. He is too poor. D. He is too handsome. The answer is C. He is too poor. Question 2. What do Herman's friends like to do every Friday night? A. Go to parties. B. Play tennis. C. Play a card game. D. Watch YouTube. The answer is C. Play a card game. Question 3. What were the 3 cards that the Queen of Spades told Herman to remember? A. 3 of hearts, 7 of clubs, ace of diamonds. B. Ace of spades, king of hearts, queen of diamonds. C. Queen of spades, 2 of clubs, 5 of hearts. D. 4 of hearts, 4 of diamonds, 4 of spades. The answer is A. 3 of hearts, 7 of clubs, ace of diamonds. Question 4. What is the moral of this story? A. Never get involved in a land war in Asia. B. Don't bet everything on the wrong card. C. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. D. Don't judge a book by its cover. The answer is B. Don't bet everything on the wrong card.